Oh, look at this. This is a turn 3. Neoform onto Legion Warboss to try and dig for a Winota. Our opponent just played his second land, and we're going into turn 3, already potentially getting a Agent of Treachery. And what is that? We'll get 2 looks from the Goblin and the Goose. Sure. What is up, guys? Today I've got a really exciting list for you. I know you've seen a decent amount of variants of Winota being played on the ranked ladder board, and this is just another one that's incredibly spicy, and as you can see from that opening video, really fast. If of course if your curve pans out correctly. This is a 4-color deck list that does not run Fires of Invention. Something I will say is one of the drawbacks behind this list is the mana base. The fact that it is 4 colors makes it a little bit awkward in certain occasions. I'm by no means the greatest when it comes to mana fixing the deck list. So if you guys have suggestions for the mana base for this list, by all means, please make sure you guys comment and let me know down below. If you enjoy the video, make sure you please hit that like button and subscribe so that way you can see future content for what we put out. I try and make videos every Monday. However, this weekend was Memorial Day weekend, and I wanted to spend that with the family. So today's Tuesday. We're releasing it today. Anyway, without further ado, let's go ahead and go straight into this list. So Neoform. This is one of the cards that at first I looked at and was like, Before I forget, shout out to you, Quinn. Appreciate the deck list. He came through the Twitch chat and showed it to me, and I really liked it, and I want to make a video on it. Anyway, Neoform. So looking at this allows you to sacrifice one of your creatures and dig in your library for another creature with the same CMC +1 for 2 mana. The reason why that's important and why at first it was just kind of overlooked is we do run a decent amount of 3 CMC creatures, right? From Hanged Executioner, which allows us to spot check other creatures. If we are in a little bit of a bind, you can exile him and exile target creature. It's kind of nice. But more importantly, he generates 2 creatures, which is more tackling fuel for Winota, as well as he has the 3 CMC, which is fuel for Neoform to be able to guarantee the Winota play if you didn't draw into her. So essentially, this kind of makes it almost like having 8 copies of Winota in your deck list, or at least giving you 4 copies of something you could utilize. Let's say you have Winota out. Let's say you have Agent. Maybe it's late game. And then you have you draw into like a Goose or a Grazer, and you're just like, what is this? I may as well just top deck into a land. Neoform actually turns these into a Charming Prince, which then reflickers Agent. And then if you have Winota, an extra Winota out, or a Sphinx or something like that, you can get a Kenrith. I don't know. It's proven to be very well versatile in various different matchups. So anyway, you've got Kenrith, which is just all around great for a 4-color list, allowing you to give your creatures trample, haste to punch in for lethal, as well as gain life, along with Charming Prince gaining life. Sphinx able to allow you to get that first look at the top 2 cards of your library if he does come into your opening hand, which I kind of feel like he does quite a bit. Obviously, Warboss just absolutely devastating when it comes to providing tackling fuel for Winota. Being able to cast him turn 3 into a turn 4 Winota. And then if you had like a mana chump or something like that, that's just 3 looks that you're looking at. And then the king himself, Agent of Treachery, being able to steal stuff. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at the library, or the sideboard. I'm go ahead and take my camera off there so you can actually see it. Aether Gust, obviously. Scorching Dragonfire is actually really strong here, particularly for stuff like the cycle lists that you're going up against, some of the sacrifice lists, allowing you to get rid of kitties, or more importantly, Mayhem Devils, Woe Striders, etc., etc. Dovin's Veto I kind of put in there for now. Dovin's Veto and Teferi I'm not the biggest fan of in the sideboard. I don't really, being that we have the colors at first glance, just being as a control player, I'm just like Teferi. But then reevaluating it, I don't really see very many situations where I'm actually using Teferi or Dovin's Veto in this list particularly. So I'm actually kind of thinking about tweezing the Dovin's Veto and the Teferis for Tide Takers. So that way, if we're going up against lists that have a lot of spot removal and board wipes, etc., I kind of like the idea of putting a Tide Taker out to protect Winota. and being able to swing in and add that little next layer of protection. Sorcerer Spyglass, obviously, for some of those Luca matchups or some of those Walker matchups, etc., etc. Even Cat Oven, Sack Ovens. There's a really wide range in which Sorcerer Spyglass can be really strong to be boarded in. And then Mystical Dispute, of course, to help against some of the control matchups, etc., etc. It could even help with the spot checks too. I don't really know how I feel about that, but anyway, without further ado, let's go ahead and dive straight into the game. This is a best of 3 matchup. We can go ahead and bring my cam back so you guys can see me. And I actually chose this matchup to showcase to you guys because I'm going to show you that the deck doesn't always pan out according to plan. We do lose game 1, but we do come back and get the victory, and it really shines to light the strength of this deck. So without further ado, appreciate y'all. Let's take a look at this game. All right, going straight into this matchup. We're going up against the Ancient Mariner. This opening hand, I'm not the biggest fan of, but it's okay. Considering we have all of the mana base colors we need: blue, green, white, and red. We do have a mana dork with Grazer, so it's going to give us 1 turn advantage there, as well as a pretty decent curve now with Charming Prince allowing us to look at things. I think I kind of like the idea of probably a breeding pool or potentially a temple garden. Either ways for Charming Prince. But we're gonna go ahead and go Grazer into, which one do I choose? I guess it doesn't really matter too much. I think Sacred Foundry, because then that allows for the Charming Prince next play if I do go that route. I'm also kind of tempted to sit on Charming Prince since we know we have the Winota, and if we do end up going into an agent, that allows us to reflicker and get a little bit more value. However, at the same time, I'm also like, okay, I need to get something that's going to allow us to utilize Winota. So I think I kind of like the idea of just letting something come in tapped and then just playing Prince maybe so we can scry too. Maybe I don't do that. Sure. I guess I'm going to get greedy here. That could have been my first punt this matchup. I think we should have Charming Prince so we can scry too and potentially put something out that's going to fuel Winota. Okay, so he's going to get Rotting Regisaur out. That's going to be pretty gnarly. We're going to go ahead and let it happen first in case we do get something and we go to another agent. So the absolute worst case scenario in this list is to get agents in your hand. You actually want them in your library so you can get full advantage of Winota. I'm going to go ahead and put her out just so that way I can at least swing with Goose and try and get something. Looks like I whiffed there. I didn't get anything of value in the top 6 cards of our library. He's going to go ahead and block a Rotting Regisaur, and it's going to die. It looks like advantage is pretty much just in his hand at this point. I mean, I don't think we should be blocking with Winota at this point. We're trying to get some value, but we also know that 2 agents are in our hand and not in our library. So even if we are swinging, I think our best bet is obviously one of the other 2 agents or a Kenrith. Kenrith would be like okay here. It wouldn't be the greatest because it doesn't stop Rotting Regisaur, but at least not initially. And plus we also need something in order to fuel Winota. So this is one of the matchups that I wanted to show. We do lose this first round. However, the next 2 really showcase the glory of this deck. I wanted to show you what happens when games get out of your hand, some of the things you want to look at, and some of the styles you want to play when you're on your back foot, essentially. So yeah, we just draw into a Triome. There's no coming back out of this one. All right, so unfortunately we drew into 2 agents when we want them in our library. It happens. Obviously the RNG gods were not in our favor that game 1. As far as boarding goes up against this particular matchup, I think I like Dragonfires here, especially since we saw a little bit more of the lower end creatures that we can kind of deal with and allow to open up the battlefield a little bit more so for Winota plays. I think Scorching Fire is probably the only board card that we want to put into the main. Excuse me, sideboard card. So yeah, we got smacked around a little bit game 1. It happens to the best of us. Looks like he's doing quite a bit of sideboarding. He knows what we're playing. I'm sure it is a little bit of a wrench in the plan when they see it's 4 colors. Okay, so going into game 2, we're gonna go ahead and take the play. I'm okay with this opening hand here. Sure, we get to turn 1 goose. We're also gonna get to look at our next 2 cards. I like Neoform here because we do have a Warboss in hand, as well as a goose, so we can goose turn 1 into a turn 2 Warboss, and then into a turn 3 Neoform, which is gonna let us exchange Warboss for a Winota, and we'll have 2 creatures on the battlefield that can swing, giving us 2 looks for a potential agent or even a Kenrith. Obviously, agent being the golden play, but I won't be too mad about getting a Kenrith either. All right, so we're gonna go with Goose as planned. I went ahead and kept that other Warboss because having Warbosses in hand, especially we have the mana already to play him, it's just always a really strong play in this particular deck. And we won't even have to shock in our next land too. That's one of the beauties of Neoform being 2 mana. All right, so Warboss is gonna make a little 1/1. He's gonna swing unblocked as he played a Triome anyway, and he can't do anything about it. So looking at this board state right now, it's looking pretty good, in my opinion. We're kind of hoping the next 12 cards after this Warboss are one of them being an Agent of Treachery, because then holy bajoli the advantage. And it came in tap too, so we're just kind of licking our chops right now. I'm gonna go ahead and just check in Warboss with Neoform, get that Winota out, swing with those 2 non-human creatures, and try and grab an Agent of Treachery. All right, so we'll go ahead and eat the Warboss. And bear in mind, Warboss is not the only one we could do this with. This is also why we run Hanged Executioner, as well as the fact that Hanged Executioner also has a sacrifice this creature and exile target creature at like point in it. All right, so we get the Winota out. We could swing for these 2 creatures and look at the top 12 cards of our library for an agent. So essentially, that could have been a turn 3 agent play. Just putting that out there. Sure, and he'll just, yeah. I mean, I would scoop 2. That was the best case scenario in regards to like our opening hand and the draws we were hitting, etc., etc. And note that we didn't even have the Winota in hand. The Neoform is what guaranteed us to be able to play it. All right, so this opening hand, I'm not the biggest fan of, particularly because we have the agent in hand. We want it in our library. But I think we can go ahead and get away with it because we do have 2 lands. That's going to give us all the mana bases we need, as well as the Sphinx in our opening hand. So we're going to be able to look at the top 2 cards of our library and see what we're kind of drawing into. Having Warboss in hand is really strong. I think I'm going to go ahead and put Scorching Dragonfire toward the bottom because we need mana. And it's not for sure doing anything for us right now. I'm a little bit torn as to whether or not to keep the Warboss. Especially since he is the colors that he is running, we could see a lot of spot removal, and we want to see some consistency in non-human creatures being played out. So I do think I want to keep it. We're going to go ahead and Triome turn 1, so that way we can ensure Warboss gets out by turn 3. We do have a Winota in hand, but we are going to need a 4th mana. Otherwise, we can always eat Warboss with Neoform, worst case scenario. He does get an Eternal Taskmaster out, which is going to be a little bit of a wrench in our plan in regards to Warboss generating 1/1s that can essentially fuel Winota. So we're going to let this come in tapped. We don't have a turn 2 play that we're going to do anyway. Fingers crossed on that turn 4 mana. A little bit risky keeping the other Warboss, but I think it's the right decision. Like I said, based on the potential spot removal that we'll probably see, I want to ensure that we have some tackling fuel for Winota. So he gets a Stormwind out. Excuse me, Stormwild. We draw to a 3rd Warboss. Sure. Oh, goodness. I mean, this is why we kept Neoform, right? So we are still safe either way. As far as making sure we can get a Winota out if we need it. I think I'm kind of liking the idea of, based on whether or not he swings with anything, if he does, instead of a Winota play, I think I kind of like a Warboss, right? Because another Warboss gets more swings out and it gets us more looks for a potential Agent of Treachery, right? So it looks like he's gonna swing with 1. That's gonna kill one of our goblins. But if we do play a Warboss out, then one of our goblins is gonna survive from the 2 that get generated. We do get a mana, so we can hard cast Winota. We're not gonna have to actually eat any of our Warbosses, which is gonna give us even more looks. That's one of the downsides about us having to eat our Warbosses for a Winota, is we don't get that extra goblin pre-combat. But in this particular situation, it looks like it's really playing out in our favor. We're going to be able to hard cast Winota from our hand. We're going to swing out with just everything. Both war bosses, their plethora of little goblins. I am a little worried about the Kaya's Wrath here. That could potentially be played out and just board wipe. If that were to happen, we do have another war boss in hand. So I guess it wasn't the worst thing in the world to draw into that third one. As well as some other non-humans such as the Sphinx. I mean, we have avenues of approach here, right? So, and I think all he could really do is probably Wrath and maybe like a Knight or something if he's running it. Knight of Ebon Legion. He's thinking, he's looking at the board state. I think he knows I probably have the Winota, or ever since he saw the Neoform last game, he knows that I potentially have essentially 8 copies, right? We have 4 in the library, and then 4 Neoforms, which just allows us to guarantee our Winota, especially having Warboss online. So he's going to get King Caesar out, sure. This is going to throw a little bit of a wrench in our situation here. So we need to draw an agent to get rid of that, or else it's going to destroy our side of the board, and it's going to get kind of ridiculous. So we're going to go ahead and get our Fabled Passage out. I need to look at my library to see what we scryed before we swing. To see if I need to like reshuffle. I have 1 Scorching Fire in there. I think I'm okay with cracking Fabled Passage here and then getting one of the lands out. We'll probably just throw like a mountain or something. All right, so now we get to swing for 3, and we're gonna get 3 looks. We're trying to steal that King Caesar, right? Because he could start spot checking everything. So first look is a whiff. Second look is a whiff. Third is the charm. The third look is the charm. Yes. Ooh. That was playing with my emotions a little bit, dudes. But we got it, and I think we took board advantage here. I mean, he could wipe. If he doesn't have the wipe in hand, he might just scoop, because that is a lot of creatures. Sure. Alrighty, guys. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. That was a really fun list. Like I said, I wanted to showcase a matchup that both showed some of our weaknesses with this deck list in that game 1, as well as our really strong suits and how fast that this deck can really take advantage of the current board state. With that turn 3 potential agent, he scooped. But when we had 2 looks, it's 12 cards top of our library. We could have landed 1 turn 3. Oh man, even worst case scenario, even just getting a Kenrith out turn 3 is just ridiculous. Anyway, appreciate y'all for tuning in. If you like the video, make sure you guys click that like and that subscribe button down below so you can see future content we're putting out. I'm trying to get one out every Monday. This week was Memorial Day weekend, so I went ahead and spent that time with my family, and Tuesday, which is today, is the day we're releasing it. So appreciate y'all for tuning in. I will see you again very soon.